Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the M3 Market Update. My name is Melody Wright, and I try to do this show to give you some context around the data you're hearing out there in mainstream media around residential and commercial real estate and mortgage finance. I also try to give a wider global perspective of what's going on in macroeconomics and how that impacts your decisions in terms of when to buy a home for, to live in or for investment. So welcome back. I have a lot to talk to you about today. I think many of you that watch my show know that I've been on the road for the last couple of weeks, lucky enough to travel with Travis from Real Estate Mindset, and we went up to see Todd Sachs of Sachs Realty and Jack from Nobody's Special Finance, and we had a great time. And I saw a lot. We toured 8 cities, drove about 4,600 miles, did some Amtrakking, the train as well, up to New York. So excited to tell you guys all about that over the next several weeks because I won't be able to tell you everything that I saw in one show, but I'll give you kind of a general overview today, and then we'll dive into specific markets over the next several weeks. And I do believe now that I'm back, I'm going to be able to do a couple of YouTubes a week. So you'll get all those updates. It won't be months, I promise. Okay. So we missed a lot of, while I was on the road, we got a lot of data out there and a lot of exciting data in terms of giving us a broader perspective, our understanding of what's going on. And so I'm just going to run through that real quick before I even give you some nuggets from the trip, just so we're all on the same page on the data that kind of was published while I was away. So first I want to start with that just rock bottom existing home sales. Now, remember that for whatever reason out there in the marketplace, they track existing home sales separately from new home sales. And so this can be very confusing because on the one hand, it seems like we're getting, home sales information every couple of weeks. And so it's hard to, especially with those headlines of, that are trying to grab your attention, it can be really confusing. But existing home sales, these are not new homes, but they were down 19% year over year. This is the lowest since 1995. This is abysmal, guys. This is worse than the GFC. So in reality, what you're seeing out there, in my opinion, is the narrative is turning from kind of a seller strike to a buyer strike. And I believe that buyers have just put their foot down, really out of necessity, that they're not going to even try with these prices where they are. Now, everybody got super excited when we had those rate moves at the end of last year in mortgage rates, which you guys know because I talk about all the time. They follow the 10-year treasury. And so everybody thought, oh my gosh, the builders went to all-time highs. It's going to be a party. Everything's going to be great next year. Well, that kind of slowed down. We're recently seeing rates drop a little bit again here the last couple of days. So we're going to have our eyes on that. But it certainly didn't drop the way that most folks were thinking, as well as it didn't bring out the same activity, or not the same, but the activity that a lot of people were expecting. And we'll talk about that when I bring up applications here. Then the other thing is we got new home sales. And although those were up modestly around 4%, the prices were down year over year, 6.64%. So that is, the median price was down. So that's actually really important because, we'll next talk about Case-Shiller, which is the home price index that tracks existing homes reaching an all-time high in terms of year-over-year comparison. That's what the media focused on. In reality, it kind of was down slightly month over month, but in reality, if you look back historically, it does typically drop month over month for that indices. However, guys, this is for data for November. It's now February 1st when I'm taping, as well as they use a 3-month rolling average. And so you will, in the numbers that we saw for November, there were closings from July. So I just want everyone to understand this is a severely lagging index. And additionally, it seems there have been some interesting tweets out there about this series being broken. And I could see that happening. There's a couple of data methodologies. One is that they don't count sales that happen if you have two transactions within 6 months, they don't count those. And then also the way that they do the pairing and the weighting of the pairs. So they look at sale pairs. And if that sale happened over a long period of time, they basically kind of value it less. And so it's a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo, confusing stuff. But put it this way, there's a lot of evidence that Case Shiller just isn't going to serve us well right now in this market. And I got to be honest, it didn't serve me well during the GFC either as an indication of what was going on, which is largely why I've started doing what I'm doing, because I remember very well my executive team being thoroughly convinced that things were turning around based on listening to the economists of the day and looking at things like Case-Shiller. Now, it's a great index to look at over time, but it could be broken right now. So new home sales were up, but prices were down. And I think that message went to the market that if you're going to move inventory, you are going to have to give price concessions. And I think that was a big wake-up call to the existing market out there. And I think we're seeing that in increases in inventory, and they are in some markets, guys, increasing exponentially. So, I think that new will lead existing. So new home prices will lead existing down. And based on what I just saw on the road, those prices are going to be coming down, down, down. And the builders are in a lot of trouble. And so I have come out there very publicly saying that I do believe in aggregate we'll see prices go down this year. Of course, those of you that know me know that I don't think they'll drop this year as much as they will next year. But, I think we are on our way, and barring any kind of exogenous event or fiscal stimulus, I do think in aggregate we will see prices come down. What I'm seeing in Florida and Texas, there's a lot of activity. There's a lot of price concessions. Sales are down at the same time. So it's going to be a very interesting spring. We'll talk about applications real quick. And so not seasonally, they came out and were down 7.2%. But as you guys know, I like to look at both the seasonal and the non-seasonally adjusted. And the non-seasonally adjusted for mortgage applications were actually up at about 8% week over week. But for purchase, they were down 20% year over year. That's huge, guys, because they were already down last year. It was pretty abysmal back then. So let's see. We've got existing home sales, new home sales. Oh, just quickly on kind of those new homes again, completions. That was a blowout report. So they're accelerating completions exponentially. I believe it was almost 30%. So this is what we kind of knew was going to happen. The builders are just like any manufacturer. They have to complete that product. They have to move it. And they've made promises to the street about how much they're going to move, and that's Wall Street. And so they are going to, as they look to their neighbors left and right, and by the way, it's their neighbors. Every single one of these cities, you will see all of the nationals building right next to each other, and then the locals do that as well. And so they're looking to the left, looking to the right, and realizing, oh my gosh, I have got to move this product. And so they're going to complete these things as quickly as possible. Now, if you're a smaller local builder, you might start to slow your roll based on what you're seeing. And we did see a ton of just newly excavated, sorry, I'm still a little tired from the trip, excavated sites out there. And so those folks who don't maybe have the same, kind of pricing power of the big builders, they may actually be stopping construction because of the fact that they don't have the funding. And so, the next couple of months are going to be very telling. And I can tell you absolutely, and we'll talk more about this, even though inventory is going up, I am now 100% certain that a lot of the builders are pulling their listings from realtor.com. And they're either not listing them or they're listing them on something like Zillow, which I remind you guys all the time, but the Fed uses realtor.com to track inventory. And honestly, I said this last year. I went on the road last February and I came back and said, we don't have an inventory shortage. And, I'm coming back from this trip, and that is times 4 because even though last year I thought perhaps people would slow down in the product that they were putting out there, a lot of them sped up, guys. And they did based on what I was just saying that the nationals needed to push it out there. But there is no reason out there. There is no logic. The amount of inventory is staggering. Now, is it affordable inventory? No, of course not. But guys, supply and demand, there is not going to be a demand for what I saw out there. So prices are going to come down. Okay, so the other thing were data was just in permits. So, basically when you're going to build, you have to pull a permit from the county. Those were down and starts were also down. So for the new home market, let's just review. Sales were up, prices down, starts down, permits down, completions up, meaning more inventory coming out there. The more inventory that's out there to meet this little bit of demand means more price concessions. And then existing sales, until they get the memo, guys, and they're not getting the memo. I've talked to people all the time and they're not getting the memo. The only people that are getting the memo are the ones that don't have any choice whatsoever. They have to get out as soon as possible. So I think for existing, it's going to be a couple more months before we see any kind of activity or giving way there. But we're going to be following that very closely. So what did I learn on my big trip? I learned that mania and narrative are very, very, very strong drivers. And I honestly, just like last time when I went to Austin and Nashville and Charlotte, and we went back to Charlotte, it's almost, you get overwhelmed and almost nauseous when you look at how much of somebody's livelihood has been put into some of these new developments that are never going to be completed, never be filled. If I had to, and I hate, and a lot of you may actually know this about me, but I don't like talking about numbers that I can't back up with hard evidence. But I am going to say that I think we know about maybe 25 to 30% of the actual inventory out there. And so that means that we don't know about 70% of it. That is from the drone footage I'll be able to share, from everything that I've been seeing, guys. I don't like to exaggerate unless I'm telling a story, and then I do. But I don't like to exaggerate about numbers. And what we saw in these 8 cities was just absolutely unbelievable. So I know that's kind of a tease. I know some of you are probably looking forward to hearing about a specific city, and I will do those deep dives. I will probably start with Atlanta. I think Travis is actually working on the Atlanta video right now. So we'll try to kind of pair those so that, my video comes out, his comes out, and we also have the drone footage so that you can take a look at it. And, I just have to give a shout out to Travis because he was the best traveling partner. And I'm so glad he's good at gadgets because I am terrible at them, as well as taking pictures. We talked about it on the road. I need to experience everything first without a camera in front of my face because I need to process what I'm seeing. And we kind of worked well as a team. He'll tell you I'm a really good spotter. And as we were out on the road, we spotted all kinds of crazy things. Guys, if you want to do this yourself, let me tell you a couple of key indicators that you're about to come up to some speculative mania. Look for a brand new public storage or light storage or whatever you want to call it, but a big storage facility, but a new one. And then probably about a block or two from there's going to be a new car wash. You'll probably have a new strip mall with a coming soon sign. But if you see those 3 things, you know that a crazy new build site is right around the corner. And by the way, it's never just one. It's usually 10 to 15, And as we talk about specific markets, some of this is just so irrational. It is hard to put words on. It's very reminiscent of China and the fact, you think about Evergrande, you think about these huge high rises in the middle of nowhere. This is a lot of what we were saying. So more to come on the trip. I'm glad I'm back finally after a couple of days. I feel a little bit more like myself. The end of that trip was a little rough, But I got to be honest with you, it was so much easier than the my other trips just because I had a partner in crime, and so very appreciative to Travis, as well as, Todd Sachs for hosting us up in his brand new awesome studio. And can't wait for that video to come out for you guys to hear that chat with Todd. And, he's been really killing it with his interviews and just happy to be able to hang out with all these guys. And I hope you guys kind of liked our fun little Fed video. It was just kind of a fun thing to do. Okay, so we're gonna dive into the numbers real quick, and I hope actually I don't like not gonna make too many promises, but I really do think I'll be able to get the Atlanta video out in the next few days. Okay, so inventory for sale increased 1.92% week over week and 4.80% month over month. So we're kind of climbing out of that seasonal trough that we saw between November and December. And just remember, we've talked about it. The average decline between November and December since 2017 is 10%. We didn't even get close to that. We got about half of that. Compared to the 24-week average, we're still kind of making up that drop in inventory. It was down 3.9%, but year over year for inventory, up 7.24%. And guys, so excited that I finally have year over year for a lot of these cities. Now, remember, this is no frills M3 Melody Market Update. And so these lists, all of this will be in the show notes, or you can check it out in the Substack. But I will tell you, I was around a bunch of really professional YouTubers, so I'm going to be up in my game. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Okay, top cities with largest percent increase in inventory week over week, and this is for January 21st to the 28th. So we saw a lot of California come in here. Costa Mesa up 8%, Portsmouth, New Hampshire up 8%, San Jose, California up 7.24%, San Francisco, California up 6.71%, and Scottsdale, Arizona up 6.36%. Now, what's interesting, guys, is California had big drops from that November to December. And as you guys probably recall, Florida, it did not. Texas, a little. So I think California is just making that back up. I was very curious about those drops, and it does look like it really was seasonal, but we'll keep our eyes on it. Okay, top cities with largest percent increase in inventory month over month. So this is December to January. San Francisco up at the top at 22.13%. Portsmouth here again at 17.19%. Carlsbad, California up at 13.78%. Brattleboro, Vermont at 12.9%. And El Cajon, California up 12.06%. So California really is in these top for recent inventory gains. Okay, top cities, largest percent increase in inventory compared to a 24-week average. Hoboken, I didn't get a chance to get out there, but if you have not checked out my Substack this week, I encourage it. I think that likely what's going on in Hoboken is just an extension of what's going on in New York, and people really aren't talking about it. And so in my Substack, I just talk about how empty the city is. I think I talked in a video last time about how there's 95 million square feet vacant in New York City, and you can feel it. I used to live there, and I spent some time in my Substack this week just talking about that, talking about how different the city is. And, I live there. It's one of my favorite cities. To not know this, to not know how bad it is, means that the picture that we're getting out there is not representative. But in my Substack, I just, I'm still very shocked by, how vacant the city was, not just the buildings, but just, places even, and I compare it, honestly, I walked in Central Park, I walked all over the city, and the last time I saw it that deserted was on 9/11, and I was there for that. That's a story for another day, but that is the last time I saw it that deserted. And so that's a little crazy. So check that out, guys, but I think maybe that's what's going on in Hoboken too. Hoboken, though, inventory increased 51.51% compared to 24-week average, Fort Myers at 21.92%, Palm Springs, California, 21%, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 20.43%, and Pembroke Pines, Florida, 17.19%. So here we are seeing Florida, it's like a swarm. Existing inventory is just hitting the market. And I think this largely has to do with the themes we've been talking about here: property taxes, insurance. It is just simply unaffordable. And also in Florida, we have the condo issue that's really rearing its head. And that's where all of these condos have to have, adequate reserves. There's, some confusion about the actual deadline around that. But put it this way, there are massive headwinds for condos in Florida. And additionally, there's a lot of vacancy already. I've talked a lot about that. Okay, top cities with largest percent increase in inventory year over year. So this is going to be our list to watch, but Fort Myers at top 53.3%. We know that has a lot to do with Ian. Bakersfield, California, 50.98%. Galveston, Texas, 37.37%. That is a lot for, and I mean, this is over 1,000 listings in Galveston, which is not that huge. Fort Lauderdale, 27.5%. San Ramon, California, 26.39%. Knoxville, 23.08%. Denver, 17.38%. Johnson City, 15.13%. Coeur d'Alene, and that's in Idaho, 13.47%. And West Palm Beach, Florida at 12.67%. So we've got, Florida, California, Tennessee, Denver in these top 10 numbers. Okay, and now I just added something kind of cool. I'm going to be tracking kind of by state for the cities I track. And I'm starting with the top three: California, Florida, and Texas, because to me, they are the biggest and they will move the needle the most. And so average inventory change month over month, California was up 8.42%, Florida 6.91%, Texas up 2.96%. Average inventory change year over year, California up 3.15%, Florida up 17.56%, and Texas up 19.79%. Okay, moving for listings for rent. So we saw the same seasonal drop. I don't have enough information to tell you if it was seasonal, but it was my guess, and we're starting to see it come back. So I think that it probably was some seasonality. But listings for rent were up 3.28% week over week, 2.42% compared to the 24-week average, and 3.61% month over month. I started tracking these in May, so we should have a full year soon. But top cities with highest percent increase of single-family rental listings, January 21st to the 28th, Brattleboro, Vermont, up 150%. Very small amount, but it is a tripling. Newport Beach, California, 42.94%. Phoenix, up 36.11%. Cape May, up 33.33%. El Cajon, California, up 29.50%. So El Cajon up for inventory, for sale, and rent. Okay, so top cities with the highest percent increase of single family rental listings, the 24-week average: Phoenix up 34.36%, Knoxville up 32%, El Cajon, California up 30.6%, Boston up 30.35%, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire up 28.16%. Okay, so I just got short-term rental data for December just yesterday, so I will add that in. If I do an Atlanta video this week, I'll add that in so you have it. And then, commercial real estate, I mean, some of you maybe saw that article where Barry Sternlicht of Starwood was talking about he thinks there's $1 trillion worth of losses. Guys, $1 trillion is too small a number for what we've seen on the road. It is not just offices. It's not just Class B and C offices. It's Class A offices. For instance, in Dallas, which already has a massive amount of vacancy, they've got 2 high-rises in process. Same in Austin. 95 million square feet in New York that's vacant. And it doesn't matter if everybody comes back to work. We have overbuilt. And so it's the offices, then it's the multifamily that I've been seeing all over. And by the way, that's hitting, they are not able to refinance. There's massive distress in multifamily. And then the industrial. And so, Blackstone thinks it's made some great bet on industrial, guys. There is so much empty industrial out there. It is all over the place. And so I don't care what they try to spoon feed us. There is trouble in industrial as well. And all of this is going to bleed over. Once you take these write downs mean essentially losses at banks. We just saw, basically what happened with New York Community Bank, but that's just the beginning. Once that happens, banks have to do write downs. Then they don't have money, so they have to do layoffs. And this all just starts the domino effect. And residential and commercial are inextricably linked. And a trillion in losses, I think that we're going to see a lot more of that, more losses than that, because there is just so much inventory and empty inventory out there. When I was in New York and looking at these huge skyscrapers, no lights were on, very reminiscent of the ghost condos in Miami. And just the feel of the city, everybody, was when we came in through the Lincoln Tunnel, we got no traffic. I thought, okay, it's just a Monday, so maybe this is what Mondays look like. Then it was Tuesday. We went down to Wall Street. We went down to the Staten Island Ferry. We walked around One World Trade Center. I used to commute there every single day. And it was a ghost town on a Tuesday, a ghost town. That doesn't even make sense. All over the city, it was a ghost town. We went to restaurants. The golden rule of New York City dining used to be, hey, if your whole party isn't there, you're not getting sat and you're going to lose your table. Um, I was very shocked when I went to a restaurant, we got sat, our whole party wasn't there. And even more shocked, this was in one of my old neighborhoods, the entire restaurant was empty. Now, New York, it's cold, it's winter, but New Yorkers, nothing keeps them from going out to eat, okay? Nothing keeps them from going out. There are just not as many New Yorkers anymore. I don't care what anybody says, the city is completely deserted and it's wild. And it was very disconcerting. So I hope you check out the Substack to get a sense, because I write about New York, I write about my history in New York, and honestly, this isn't the first time that New York has experienced issues. You go back to the 70s and it came back, roaring back to life. And so that's what does give me optimism. But there is going to be a lot of pain from here to there. And so I don't think any of us have quite the comprehension of how much pain there's going to be in both residential and commercial. So, okay, that was a lot to throw at you really quickly, but glad to be back. As I said, I'm going to try really hard to up my frequency with the YouTubes and even foray into bringing on guests. But this epic road trip really put a fire in me to bring this information to you, because I'm telling you, everybody's going to wake up in about a year, maybe a little longer, and realize that we have all been duped. And honestly, it is just so unbelievable, the speculation that's out there that we saw on the road. But I do want to say thank you to all of you who have supported me, especially on these trips, which can be very isolating and alienating. And of course, I can't even get, to see what's going on. So, big shout to my followers and supporters who tag me on articles, keep me updated. If I think one, I'm going to forget all of them, but I do want to give a special shout out to Julius Miami on Twitter, Twitter. He sources articles for me all the time and he kept me updated on this trip. So much thanks to him. And thank you to all of you guys for your support. And I hope you'll tune in again for the next video. Have a great day. And if you need to reach me I'm at M3_Melody on Twitter, MELODY, M3 Melody Substack, and here on YouTube. Thanks again, guys. And I hope you have a great, great weekend. Thank you so much.